Hi, I'm Mark Bailey from Meetings Club, trusted online reviews for bookers of conference, meeting and event venues. Welcome along to the Meetings Club channel. Now, I'm delighted to be joined by Helen Moon, an event and marketing director with over 20 years experience in the events industry. Helen's the founder and managing director of the EventWell Club, managing director at EventWell, and co-founder of UK Event Wellbeing Week. Plus, she's the marketing and communications manager for the Royal Greenwich Heritage Trust. Thanks so much for joining us on the Meetings Club channel.
You're welcome. Thanks, it's good to be here.
Good to see you. Now, research that EventWell has undertaken highlights that 1 in 3 event professionals will suffer from mental health, a mental health episode at some point in their career, and 10% are suffering right now or have been in the past year. It's a really worrying statistic, Helen, and something close to you personally. What's your story?
Okay, I think it's first important to mention that everybody has mental health. So really the statistics show that it's more 1 in 3 would suffer from a period of ill health or an episode of mental health or mental health troubles or worries and like that. So everybody has mental health, just as everybody has physical health. My personal story is I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2009. It was roughly around the same time that I experienced a career burnout. An awful lot of pressure and stuff at the time. There was an awful lot of, I had personal life events happening at the time. Work was pretty pressured. I was doing an awful lot of travel. I was working long hours. Really wasn't taking that time for myself. But the diagnosis actually came 20 years after when it should have done. So my bipolar disorder is something I've actually suffered from since I was around about 16, 17. So I'd had bouts of depression on and off for many years before really finally getting the correct diagnosis in terms of what was wrong, really more than anything else. So I'd functioned pretty well up until that point, but obviously now functioning a lot better since receiving that diagnosis. So really it was a massive kind of turnaround for my life personally, really, because I was then able to put in place what I needed to do for me personally to combat and manage that disorder. One of the things I always say now is I don't see myself as being mentally ill. I see myself as having a disorder that I need to manage. And if I don't manage it effectively and I don't take care of myself, then I will become ill, if that makes sense. And there's an awful lot of people that experience and work within the mental health space will say similar things.
I mean, mental health is something very personal. And what helps and works maybe for one person, be it nutrition or exercise, doesn't necessarily apply to someone else, would you say?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you just take my experience, I mean, I have bipolar disorder. My bipolar disorder will look very different to somebody else's because we're all individual. We're not robots. We all have different personalities, different values, beliefs, all of that kind of, and those values, beliefs and traditions can impact our mindset and thinking and also impact different people's health. So it's very individual. It's individual. Different people, need to do different things to take care of themselves. They'll have different interests, and taking care of yourself isn't just the diet and nutrition. It's sleep that can be very different for different people. But it's interests. So things that you like to do outside of work. There's a whole host of different arrays of different things that people can do to be taking better care of themselves. Self-care shouldn't stop at sort of exercise and diet. There's a whole host of different areas that are important when you look at self-care. So yeah,
really important. Do you find that people who haven't suffered from mental health issues find it hard to relate to people who do?
Yes, absolutely, because it's very hard to have any kind of emotive thought or feeling about something if you haven't experienced it yourself. Much the same, you can listened to, and there was actually a program I was listening to, an ambulance crew, and this was a paramedic actually being interviewed about mental health. There was a program on TV, and you even had a paramedic saying that sometimes they find it very difficult when they get the call outs to somebody who's suffering from an episode, something's happening, and they get called out from someone who's in crisis and they need that help. And even a paramedic finds it very difficult to relate, basically more, not so much to the mental health aspect, but more to how that person is feeling at that current time. And it is difficult unless you've been there, unless you've felt it yourself. It's very hard to relate, yeah, and that's perfectly understandable. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So we shouldn't make anyone feel guilty about the fact that they don't understand, because there are things that they can do to better understand.
So do you think colleagues should be a bit more self-aware, though, of how others are feeling?
Yeah, just in general, really. Whether someone's suffering from a mental health episode or they're stressed or not. So I think as human beings, we should always be aware of how our colleagues and people that we have close relationships with are feeling, because that's that human connection, isn't it? And particularly with rise of social media and stuff, I think it's always important that we continue to connect with each other, and connection is always on an emotional level. So yeah, I think that's really important, regardless of whether someone is feeling poorly or that they're not quite right. So absolutely, you should always be aware.
What do you think are the biggest well-being challenges for people working in the events industry, be they a sort of a full-time event manager or an EA or a PA who organises events? There's an interesting debate about pressure and stress, I think, when it comes to talking about the events industry.
Yes, absolutely. There's a difference. So for me, there was the piece that came out from Comcast and basically saying that the event coordination was the fifth most stressful career. For me personally, and for a few other people that I know that work within the wellbeing space, the events industry is pressured. It doesn't have to be stressful, and there's more that like professionals can be doing to take better care of themselves. But it's difficult, it's challenging. We're time limited, we work long hours, you've got looming deadlines, you've got client expectations, pressure from the boss, all those relationships at work, all of those external pressures. But what we're historically quite bad at as event professionals, because of the nature of what we do, is those internal pressures that we put on ourselves, such as wanting things to be perfect, and not being able to say no, not establishing boundaries for ourselves, not sticking our hand up and asking for help because we worry about what people might think about us and stuff. So that's where we fall down. And obviously the self-care kind of elements as well, because we're quite unique in the industry that we do. When it's an event day, it's a pressured environment. You've got cortisol coming into play. It can get quite stressful, particularly for an organizer when you're running around. The serene swan is normally the analogy I use. So you look very calm and collected, but your feet are going like the clappers at the bottom underneath. So there's a lot of that comes into play. So what has to be unique for an event planner is that you have to plan that self-care in the lead up, while you're on that event, working that event, and immediately afterwards to take care of yourself, and ensure that you're allowing your body that time to recover, basically because of the cortisol effect more than anything else, which is that natural hormone that's running around your body. Because adrenaline has been kicked off, cortisol follows. You need to allow yourself time to recover after that. So it's more, we let ourselves down through lack of understanding about areas such as that. On an event day, to give an example, an event day, event professionals filling themselves full of coffee. Now, caffeine has a very similar effect in the body to cortisol. So when you've already got cortisol in the body, the last thing you need to be doing is topping it up with caffeine. But traditionally, and cortisol also suppresses your appetite, because the idea of the cortisol and adrenaline kick is you're supposed to be running away from the dinosaur. So back in the day, in the caveman's day, so the last thing you want to be doing is stopping off for a sandwich. You're reacting to an event. Basically, the body's reacting to an event. So cortisol is supposed to gear up the mind and the muscles to get you away from that event, whatever that might be, fight, flight, or even freeze. So there's lots of that comes into play. So I think as professionals, because that's so unique to what we do, we need to gain a better understanding of exactly what's happening in our bodies at the time, and what we really should be doing to look after ourselves during that time, beforehand and immediately afterwards.
Now, you're always so busy. You're doing so many things. And in the introduction, I mean, I barely had time to go through everything that you're doing. But one of the things which I do want to pick up on is the fact that you're the managing director of EventWell. What actually is EventWell, and why did you set it up?
All right, so an EventWell is a resource for event professionals that will provide them with information. So we have expert blogs on there. We get people that guest blog articles and posts for us. There's a directory there in terms of some of the suppliers within the space and some of the health coaches and business coaches and stuff you can go to. There's also a directory of national campaigns that come up within the health and wellbeing space. So this month is National Walking Month, for example, and so we'll cover in there which weeks cover mental health awareness or food or diet, other physical illnesses such as cancers, diabetes, and so all that is listed in there, and so people can get involved. But there's downloadable PDFs on there, there's videos that people can watch around whole different areas. So the idea of EventWell is a place that people can go to find out as much information as they can related to how they would plan their own well-being, but from a holistic view of covering everything from sleep, diet, exercise, interests, mindfulness, all of that kind of stuff, so they can plan their own care. And then there's also on there's help and support and there essential links through to organisations such as, you know, Samaritan's Mind, ACAS are on there, so anybody who's experiencing any troubles or in distress is somewhere they can go to find the people they need to go to.
And the actual web address, you better plug that because that's important.
Eventwell.org.
Eventwell.org, and then people can find out further information and obviously further support ideas. Now, nearly the end of our chat, and thank you again so much for your time. Following the success in 2017 and 2018 of the UK event wellbeing work, 2019 promises to be bigger and better when it's taking place this September. What was the thinking when you first launched this campaign? And I think the hashtag, it's okay to not be okay. What do you mean by that?
Okay. The idea behind this year, because when we started in 2017, the whole ethos behind EventWell launching, and when there was a group of us got together and all said, right, okay, this thing's come out about the 5th most stressful career. Let's what can we do about this? Let's get everyone talking about it. And the whole idea in 2017 really was just that, just to get the industry talking. And we're very, very proud as a group of professionals that got together to see the movement and where it is now in comparison to where it was in 2017, because the status quo pretty much there was, this is what the industry is, get on with it, it's just the way it is. So I think a few people knew there was a problem, but really we're kind of turning the shoulder on it and wanted to ignore it and hope it would go away. When things like health and well-being, you know, it doesn't go away, it only ever gets worse. So we're quite proud that we've started this movement where people within their organisations are now doing things, talking openly. There's people like Capital Travel and Events have got a whole team of mental health first aiders and stuff gone into their organisation, which is brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Last year, we wanted to touch on the self-care. For all of the reasons that I've mentioned earlier in this interview, we need to get better at looking after ourselves and have a better understanding of why we need to make sure we're getting the best night's sleep we can get. And then really what we wanted to concentrate on, well, the theme for this year really is that it's okay to not be okay. And the whole idea of that is, you know, it comes down to those internal pressures that we place on ourselves. So, you know what, it's okay for an event not to be perfect, because there's no such thing as a perfect event. It doesn't exist, because we're in the people game, we're dealing with people, and you will never, ever get 100% rating or 10 out of 10 rating from all of the people that attend an event. So why do we put the pressure on ourselves to achieve a perfect event? We should be striving for excellence, not perfection in our industry. And this is what we need to get better of. But also things like, it's okay to put your hand up and ask for help. No one's going to think you're bad at your job. No one's going to think you're rubbish as an event professional. They're going to respect you for being honest and open and asking for that support, because asking for support ultimately ensures that an event or project will run absolutely at its best. Excellence, that you're striving for excellence by doing that. But also, okay, for stuff like, it's okay to feel emotion. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to have a bad day. You're a human being. You're supposed to have these emotions. Bottling them up and penting them up does you no good. Again, you're putting that internal pressure on yourself, and ultimately you'll explode. So show, if you want to cry, if you don't want to cry in front of other people, take yourself off somewhere and have a cry. Allow your body to experience that emotion. They talk about that an awful lot in mindfulness. So be present in the moment. Think about what it is that's making you sad, or why you're feeling that emotion. Think about why, and then what you can do, you can evaluate, is there anything I can do differently to ensure that that kind of situation doesn't upset me again? How have I approached this? What can I do to make a change? It's all part of that self-care. The same with anger. If you feel angry, it's okay to feel angry as long as you're not taking it out on other people. We're supposed to, as human beings, feel these emotions. They're not there for no reason. It wasn't a mistake when we were made, so to speak. We're supposed to have these emotions. So we should allow ourselves to feel them. But yeah, all of that kind of stuff. It's okay to have a bad day. People have bad days, you know. For as long as mankind has been here, life for every single person has been a roller coaster, ups and downs, and that's perfectly normal. And I think that it's important to send out those messages, particularly with the rise of social media and those images that were presented on a daily basis, where you only see one half of someone's life. You only see the perfect picture of someone's life. You don't see the other half of someone's life where they've had a bad day. People don't post that stuff on social media. And I think they're incredibly important messages for our younger generations and our younger people to be hearing. And I think particularly me, as I'm in my mid-40s, I see myself as a middle-aged, a slightly older woman. I have a duty, I suppose, and responsibility to be telling women who are younger than me that it's okay to be real. It's okay to be you. And that's what life really to me is about. And I think that's one of the biggest things I learned 10 years ago when I was diagnosed with bipolar. Because I had to come to terms with the fact that I've been diagnosed with a chronic mental health disorder. I'll have it for the rest of my life. There's nothing I can do about that now. But it makes you take a stock of what's important and what's real and who you are as a person. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think it's life experience that teaches people that. So I like to pass those messages down.
You've got to tell me when it is in September. It's ingrained in your memory.
It is, yes. So it's the 16th to the 20th of September, around about the same time as Square Meal Venues and Events Show in London. It's a campaign. So the idea of Event Wellbeing Week is that everybody gets involved within their organisations, within their teams, and themselves personally. So they can do whatever they would like to do. They can go off for team chats. They can take on a challenge event. But really, it's centred around those messages where really that week will be about people adopting things a little bit differently. So either they'll get better at saying no, they'll get better at asking for help and support, and they'll get better at striving for excellence, shall we say, rather than perfection. But everyone gets on board with it that week and does other things around the wellbeing space. So challenges, giving something up for that week that hopefully that it will stick with them moving forward. But yeah, 16th to 20th September.
Well, certainly the team here at Meetings Club will be very much supporting and very much involved because it's a great cause and it's something that we very much believe in. Thanks, Helen, so much for your openness and for being truly inspiring. It's really appreciated.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And if you want to find out more about the great work of EventWell, please go to eventwell.org. Thanks very much indeed for watching the Meetings Club channel.